It's recording.
Okay. Hello and welcome to our small group presentation. We are Kiana Howard, Amy Hopkins, I'm Camilla Johnson, and Renee C. And this is our Challenging Conversations presentation.
For our conflict scenario, I will be the manager and I assign cases weekly to two employees, Camilla and Kiana. Camilla has noticed over the past couple of months that she is consistently given a higher caseload than her coworker, Kiana. This creates some conflict as Camilla starts to feel frustrated and overwhelmed with her increased caseload and Kiana's decreased caseload. What we don't know is that Kiana is currently on intermittent FMLA for depression. Kiana has filed all the appropriate paperwork with HR and she is cleared to be on light duty for the next 6 months. Her work plan includes decreased caseload so she can use time for her follow-up appointments and focus on her mental health. Kiana senses that her coworker Camilla is taking on her normal caseload and she begins to feel guilty and anxious that it will impact their relationship. These feelings come to the light during a training with a team building exercise that Renee will facilitate.
The first resolution we have is common ground. This is basically where all parties involved get on the same quote unquote common ground where they understand one another and where they're not trying to debate and where they're not trying to convince somebody of another point of view. Basically what happens is you have a listener and a speaker. The listener listens to the speaker talk however they want to get what's off their chest, and then the listener has to paraphrase and summarize what the speaker was saying, and the speaker will say whether the listener had correctly paraphrased or summarized, and if they didn't, then the listener will have to re-summarize and paraphrase, and this goes on until both parties feel like they're heard, and then the listener becomes the speaker and the speaker becomes the listener.
The next resolution that we did was nonviolent communication, which is just communication between two or more people, and they try to express how they feel without getting aggressive. It allows people to express themselves honestly and clearly, while also being respectful to others. And then first, each person should be open to express and receive communication. Each person begins with what was observed, then one person expresses how what was observed made you feel, and then you identify what you need, and then you finally clearly state what you request without being demanding.
So moving on to our two exercises, we're going to start with our first exercise being the common ground practice. And we are using our conflict scenario. I am Amy and I will be playing the manager.
I'm Renee. I'll be playing the facilitator.
I'm Camilla and I'll be playing the role of the disgruntled employee.
I'm Kiana and I'll be playing an employee as well.
All right, so starting now. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started on our team meeting, I just wanted to pass out the assignments. Camilla, here is your 15 assignment caseloads for the week, and Kiana, I have 8 for you right here.
What? How come I'm getting 15 and Kiana's getting 8? We have the same job title. We get paid the same amount of money. I don't understand why I'm getting nearly twice as many cases as Kiana.
Camilla, it's right. You guys have the same job, but right now things are a little different right now, and we just need to be mindful of what everyone has on their plate right now. So we can talk more about this perhaps in the team building exercise. So I'd like to introduce Renee, who's going to walk us through as the facilitator for our common ground process.
Hi guys, I'm Renee. I'll be your facilitator for today. The common ground technique is not used to debate or to make the other person switch sides or switch their point of view. Instead, the common ground is used to get the other person to understand your point of view or what is going on particularly with you. I will note that the listener cannot interrupt the speaker or try to talk over them. You start with one person talking, and after the person finishes talking, the listener must summarize. what the other person said. I will then ask the person that talked if they feel the listener summarized and paraphrased what they said correctly, if they want to add anything, if the speaker doesn't feel listened to or summarized correctly, the listener will have to repeat and summarize again. This goes on until the speaker feels the listener understood. After that, the listener becomes the speaker and the speaker becomes the listener.
Okay, thank you, Renee. I guess I'll start since I'm the manager. So I guess lately I've just been feeling a high stress with all of the caseloads we have. And, we're all working really hard. And I just want everyone to know that I appreciate them. And I just, I want everyone to feel validated and know that everyone has a high caseload and everyone is doing a really good job on their hard work and big caseloads.
Okay, now Camila and Kiana, can you please summarize or paraphrase what Amy just said? Camila, would you like to start first?
Sure, I can go first. I guess what I'm hearing is that Amy is feeling really stressed about the amount of work, and that she really appreciates how we're kind of stepping up and taking on a lot of the work just because it's what's going on right now.
All right, Kiana, you want to go next?
Yeah. So Amy says she's just feeling really stressed out because of the increased number of caseloads.
Amy, did they summarize how you're feeling correctly, or do you feel the need to add anything?
I think they summarized how I feel correctly.
Now, Camila, do you want to go next? And Kiana and Amy can listen.
Sure. So I guess I'm just feeling really confused and like I'm kind of being kept in the dark because, like I said, we have the same job description, we get paid the same amount. So every week when we get handed our caseloads and my caseload is consistently higher, it just feels unfair and it feels like there's something going on that is I don't know about, but it's making me feel like really stressed and isolated. And I also like can't handle really this amount of work. Like I can do it, but it just doesn't feel right to me that I would have to work so much harder than Kiana and do so much more.
Thank you, Camila. I understand your frustrations. Amy and Kiana, would you like to go next? Summarize what Camila said.
Sure. I think what Camilla's saying is that she feels overwhelmed by the cases she's been given and she doesn't feel that it's fair. She notices that she's been getting more cases than her coworkers and she feels that there's something going on that she doesn't know about. And she just wants things to be fair.
All right, Kiana, would you like to summarize next?
Yeah, so I heard Camilla just say that she's doing a lot more work than I am, and she's getting stressed out about it because she feels like I'm not doing enough work. And she thinks that she says everyone is stressed out, but she thinks she's the most stressed out of all of us because she has a lot more cases than I do right now.
Camila, do you feel heard? Was anything left out?
I feel heard, although I want to make sure that people are understanding the point of what I'm saying. I don't necessarily know if I'm more stressed out than anyone else. And I don't necessarily mind taking on more work every once in a while, but my issue is just like the principle of it. It's just the principle that every week I would get more cases with no explanation.
Okay. Amy and Kiana, can you please just reiterate what Camila just said?
Camila, it sounds like you want more of a context as to why you are getting the more cases, and it's not the fact that you're getting more cases. You just want to know the meaning behind it.
Kiana?
Yeah, so Camilla doesn't really mind getting the extra work. She just wants to know why she's getting more work than I am right now.
Okay. Camila, did they do a good job?
Yes, and I don't mean to be being difficult, but they did a good job. But the one thing that they still missed is like, I'm not okay with this over the long term. Like, I don't want this to always be the case. I do want to understand why, and I want to understand the context, but I'm just saying that I don't mind every once in a while. It's just, I'm not okay with it being a long-term thing.
Okay. Amy and Kiana, can you just go over what she said one more time?
Yes. So I hear Camilla saying that she is okay every once in a while with the workload being higher than her coworkers, but as long as it's not something that's going to be a pattern or it will just become the norm, she's okay every once in a while.
All right, Kiana.
Yes. So Camilla's saying she doesn't mind having an increased workload every once in a while, but she just can't handle the increased amount of work constantly.
Camila, do you feel heard?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Kiana, would you like to go next?
All right, so currently I'm going through a bout of depression, and I know in the past me and Camilla have had an even caseload, but during this time right now, as I explained to Amy before, I just can't put 100% of myself into work because my brain is just not allowing me to. I know it is affecting the entire team, but once I'm back to 100%, I'll let you guys know, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later. But thanks, Camilla, for taking on some extra cases right now. I hope you understand.
All right. Camila, can you go first in summarizing what Kiana said?
So I heard that Kiana is kind of going through some depression right now, which is something I didn't know about. I wish I had known about it because we're so close, but I didn't know it. And with that now being understood, I don't mind helping out more. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be like a forever thing.
Okay. Just make sure you're summarizing what Kiana said as well, and you can add how you feel about it afterwards.
Okay. So I heard that Kiana was going through some depression, and she feels bad about how it's affecting the team, but it's not really like anything she can do right now. But once she's back to kind of her normal, then she'll be able to contribute equally.
Okay, great job. Amy, can you go next?
So Kiana has been going through a lot recently, and because of that, she has been able to take some time and be on light duty for work. And she has a plan in place to, work her way back, but for now, she needs our support.
All right, Kiana, do you feel heard?
Yes, I do feel heard.
Great job, everyone, on the common ground exercise. You did a great job at listening to one another without interrupting and talking over each other. And you also did a great job at summarizing what the other person has said.
Great. That completes our first scenario. The second scenario, we are going to move into our nonviolent communication process. And so for that, we'll set the scene again at the team meeting, and we will be assuming the same roles. So starting now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the team meeting. Before we get started on our facilitator, Renee, today on nonviolent communication, I just wanted to give out the assignments for the day. Today, it looks like Camilla, you have 15 assignments for your caseload, and Kiana, you have 8.
Wait a second. So yet again, I have nearly twice this amount of cases that Kiana has. It doesn't make sense. This has been going on for weeks, and we have the same job and we get paid the same amount.
Camilla, I hear what you're saying, but there are things that are just going on that you don't know about at the moment, and I appreciate you taking on the extra work for now, but it's not really up for discussion. Maybe we can talk about it more in the exercise with our facilitator. So welcome, Renee.
Hi guys, my name is Renee. I'm your facilitator for the Nonviolent Communication Workshop. Nonviolent communication is a way to communicate with one another using giraffe language, which is also using I instead of you and accusation words. By using nonviolent communication, you can take the evaluations and judgments out of your observations and are able to get across how you're feeling and making a request that helps you get what needs that you need to be met by the other person without them feeling like they're being attacked. Camila, do you want to start first?
Okay, well, Kiana, you make me feel really frustrated and really angry because you don't do any work and I do all of the work.
Camila, that's using what I call jackal language. That's using a lot of judgment. Can you reframe why you feel frustrated and angry in terms of observation of Kiana and not a judgment? This is a good exercise in learning how to use giraffe language. Also try using I instead of you because you don't know Kiana's intentions.
Okay, well, I guess I feel violated and I feel taken advantage of because I am always given so much more work than Kiana every week, and I really need the work to always be equal.
You're getting better. However, you can't use words like violated because it adds judgment to your statement. And lastly, your request needs to be a little bit more realistic. You want to try again?
Okay. Okay, so I feel frustrated and I feel angry because what I see is that Kiana has fewer caseloads than me. My request is to have an even number of caseloads as much as possible so that their work is shared equally.
That's a lot better. And you use a giraffe language instead of jackal. Thank you. Amy, do you want to go next?
Yes. So Kiana has been receiving less cases, but there's a valid reason why, Camilla. And I think, but I really think you should take this as an opportunity for growth within the company.
Okay, that's a great start. But you did not say how you felt, and the word but should not be a part of your sentence. By telling Camila how she should view the issue, you're not observing the situation, but passing judgment. What is that you feel, and what do you need, and what is your request?
Okay. So what I'm hearing Camilla say is that she feels frustrated because you're getting more cases than Kiana. In a way, I guess this makes me feel guilty because I didn't know that it was affecting you to this extent. But I do have a reason for it, and I hope you know that it is going to be temporary.
That's a lot better. Great job. Kiana, would you like to try this next?
All right. So let's hope I get this right. Camilla, I noticed that you're taking on some of my cases or more cases than usual. I feel kind of embarrassed and sad that I'm unable to help you right now. I know we're a team, so I'm asking that you take on some extra cases right now. And I hope that this issue doesn't affect our relationship. My request is that I have your support through this difficult time.
Thank you, Kiana, for sharing that. I don't want this to affect our relationship, and that's why I was feeling so upset about it. So, if you're asking for support during this time, I'm happy to support you, and I'm glad that we were able to do this because most of what I was feeling was just coming from like not being spoken to directly about it. But now that I understand that you're requesting my support as a friend and a coworker, I'm happy to do it.
Well, it seems like that worked out pretty well. Did everyone feel like that was a good exercise for us to use?
Actually, yeah, because I thought that I needed to use really harsh language to get across my point, but I'm now kind of realizing that just distracted from what I actually felt and what I actually needed.
Yeah, I feel like this was a good activity, and we should do it more often in our meetings when we have issues within the group.
I agree. And I think it's something that I, as the supervisor, can work on as well. And I can work on the meaning behind my language when I give out reports and cases. So I thank you, Renee, for coming and teaching us about nonviolent communication.
Yes, thank you, Renee.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
All right, we are gonna now go into the discussion part of our presentation where we have those 4 questions to answer.
So-
Who wanted to go over the issues relating to diversity and oppression?
I think one of the main things that came to mind when we thought about how DEI issues might affect like our conflict situation and also the different techniques we use to address it was thinking about the common ground reading we did and how a lot of times like the chaos phase in the group is fueled by people having misconceptions. So because I didn't know what was going on with Kiana, or I just didn't hear directly from her that she needed my support, I made assumptions as to why she wasn't doing the same amount of work that were based on her character. So in this case, I made assumptions based on her character, but you could also kind of see how in the absence of understanding what's actually going on, people could also use like very harmful stereotypes to explain why people are acting the way they do in the absence of understanding what's actually going on.
Yeah, and to add on to what Camila was saying, making assumptions leads to stereotypes about a person, and then that can create a lot of conflict or violence within the group or the scenario that's playing out. So yeah, that was kind of what we took on diversity and oppression. The techniques that we used in our scenario was common ground and nonviolent communication. Did somebody else want to talk about how the techniques were used?
Yeah, I feel like we also use like the nonverbal cues, like we were paying attention to everyone and like we were like kind of nodding here and there to show that we understood what each other was saying.
Yeah, I agree. I think the nonverbal cues, especially doing this over video, were really important. Like making a face when you don't understand something or nodding in agreement when you necessarily can't or don't want to interrupt someone as they're speaking. I think those are good tools to use when doing the nonviolent communication and the common ground, just so that the person knows that you're being attentive and using active listening skills.
Yeah, and I also noticed that when Camilla was expressing her feelings, I was like kind of biting my nails, like, oh, I'm nervous / embarrassed. So that's another thing I noticed that I was doing.
I did not mean to embarrass you. I just got really into my role. I also was thinking like, and this might be going into like how the techniques were in the role play, but we were interested in this conflict situation because like Kiana didn't have an obligation to disclose why she wasn't doing as much work. Like she had done all the required paperwork, but she didn't have an obligation to tell people what was going on in her personal life. So we wanted this situation to be like as real life as possible. And so in the common ground exercise, we had her like reveal why these things were happening and like the reason why she wasn't able to take as much work. And then in the nonviolent communication, like she doesn't reveal to the same extent like what's going on. And we thought that was realistic because that could happen both ways.
Yeah, to add on what to Camila said, we just didn't want Kiana to feel pressured into revealing what was going on, because last thing you want as a social worker, anybody, is to pressure somebody into revealing how they're feeling before they are ready to admit to it. Lastly, what stage of our group did we reach by the end of the course, and how do we know this? I personally think we reached the community stage just because we did go through a little chaos due to miscommunication and kind of a misunderstanding. It's a lot harder to communicate with a group through text message than face to face when you're meeting in class or through Zoom.
Yeah, and I think the like the conflict we went through helped us create ground rules that we could then follow throughout. And then once we all shared our needs, it was easier to fulfill them because we knew what they were.
Yeah. Also, I think like, and I thought of this kind of, I think it was through the nonviolent one where like Kiana and I emphasize our relationship more. So that was like kind of some background story that like we actually were friends at work. And I think like we also reached the community phase more at the end because we kind of returned to that. And I think like my issue the whole time was the fact that like I wasn't talked to directly about it. And so I didn't even need Kiana to tell me everything that was going on, but like it was just calming for me to like for that relationship to be referenced and for it to be like part of the solution. And I think that for me is like a telltale sign of like when like, you know, a group of people are reaching more of like a community phase instead of a chaos phase, because it kind of just like goes back to like their relationships and their relationships being safe.
I also agree with everyone that we're now in the community stage. I think early on when we first started meeting, we used the common ground communication to figure out what issues we had with the timing and scheduling without even noticing. So we all stated what side, I guess, what side we were on, and then we found a common ground to what we needed to do by finding, like, just making like rules, I guess, for each other to hold each other accountable.
I think that does it for our presentation. Thanks guys for watching.
Cool.